Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diagnosing a systemic illness that affects societies all over the globe, corruption. But we aren't just going to list out the symptoms, we're going to break down the exact legal and structural frameworks designed to cure it. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the anatomy of corruption, look at how it manifests in India, go over blueprints for reform, dig into anti-corruption laws, and finish up with the power of the RTI. All right, Section 1, the anatomy of corruption. I actually found this super fascinating. The very word corruption comes from the Latin corruptus, which literally translates to break or destroy. That's not just legal jargon, right? It perfectly captures why this behavior is such a massive abuse of power and a betrayal of public trust. It literally destroys the fabric of governance. And you see this disease manifest at two totally different extremes. On one end, you've got grand corruption. We're talking about those massive scandals involving top-level policymakers. But then, on the flip side, there's retail corruption. And this is the one that frustrates the everyday lives of common people. You know, when you're just trying to get a basic license or a standard public service. Now, what's really interesting is how this spreads, kind of like a biological virus. Corrupt behavior inevitably infects the whole organizational body. It snowballs, starts small, gets dangerously huge. It contaminates otherwise honest colleagues. Then comes the revelation phase, which absolutely destroys public trust. And finally, radiation. That's where corruption in just one tiny department ends up radiating out and ruining the reputation of the entire system. Let's move into Section 2, corruption in India. When examining probity and governance, the National Commission pointed out some, frankly, staggering features. They noted that a lot of this happens upstream, right at the top. And corrupt money in India, they say it has wings, not wheels, meaning it doesn't just circulate locally, it gets smuggled abroad. And the most tragic part, sometimes playing this flawed system actually leads to a promotion rather than prison. So where is all this coming from? Well, the Second Administrative Reforms Commission, or the ARC, dug into the root causes. They point squarely at our colonial legacy and this massive asymmetry of power between the state and the citizen. Throw in a heavy dose of over-centralization and over-regulation, and you end up with a sprawling chain of officials where accountability just vanishes, and the temptation to abuse power gets incredibly strong. Which brings us to Section 3, blueprints for reform. One of these sharpest tools the second ARC recommended is legally defining collusive bribery. This is a scenario where both the bribe giver and the bribe taker benefit, but the state or the public takes the hit. The ARC says, look, in these cases, the court should automatically presume an offense took place. And if an official is caught red-handed, no need to wait for prior sanction to prosecute, just go straight to it. Structurally, they also pushed for this brilliant concept called positive silence. It's basically a red tape cutter. Imagine your application for a license is just sitting on someone's desk past the official deadline. Under positive silence, it's automatically deemed granted. No more, oh, it got lost in the mail excuses. This shifts the burden completely, holding the delaying official totally responsible instead of punishing the citizen. All right, let's look at Section 4, anti-corruption laws. Our baseline treatment here is the Prevention of Corruption Act. Traditionally, this punished public servants for taking money or gifts over their actual salary, but the 2018 amendments were a real game changer. They acknowledged reality and explicitly made it a crime to be the bribe giver too. At the same time, though, they carefully added protections for honest bureaucrats, making sure officials who are just making genuine, bona fide decisions aren't paralyzed by the fear of getting unjustly prosecuted. We also have some really powerful supporting legislation. The Whistleblowers Protection Act is absolutely crucial. It strictly shields the identities of people who speak up so they don't get victimized. And running right alongside it is the Benami Transactions Act. Think of this as a magnifying glass that targets hidden wealth, going straight after properties bought under fake names or where the funding source is completely untraceable. But maybe the strongest institutional medicine we have is the Lokpal. It's based on the Nordic ombudsman concept, but its journey in India was, well, it wasn't easy. The first bill was actually introduced way back in 1968. It took 45 years and massive public protests in 2011 before the Lokpal and Lokayukta Act finally passed in 2013, coming into full force in 2014. And the jurisdiction here is mapped out very clearly. At the central level, the Lokpal oversees everyone from Group A to D central officers, MPs, union ministers, and yes, even the Prime Minister, though obviously with some specific national security safeguards built in. Then, at the state level, you have the Lokayuktas doing the exact same thing, handling complaints against chief ministers, MLAs, and state employees. Now, to stop cases from just dragging on indefinitely, which is a classic symptom of a broken system, the Act lays down some extremely strict timelines. The inquiry wing has exactly 60 days to handle a complaint. The actual investigation, that has to be wrapped up in 6 months. And the trial and a special court must be done within a maximum of 2 years. It's all about fast, effective justice. Finally, Section 5, the power of RTI. The Right to Information Act doesn't just let you ask questions, it literally forces transparency. Section 4 demands what's called suo motu, or proactive disclosure. That means government authorities shouldn't just be sitting around waiting for you to file an application. They are legally required to proactively and continuously share their policies, decisions, and functions with the public. And the RTI has some serious teeth. Normally, standard information requests have to be answered within 30 days. But the law gets it. Sometimes things are incredibly urgent. If the information you're asking for concerns the life or liberty of a person, the system has to respond in a staggering 48 hours. It is a really powerful tool that puts the citizen right in the driver's seat. But look, even the best immune system has weaknesses, right? On the demand side, you have citizens dealing with a lack of awareness, maybe some psychological barriers to questioning authority, or just not knowing how to actually draft the application. And then you contrast that with the supply side. Bureaucracies are often stuck dealing with poor cataloging, lack of training, or honestly, just an outdated colonial attitude of secrecy. So how do we actually cure this? Modern civil servants have to actively champion transparency. The way forward means fully embracing that proactive disclosure we talked about. It means genuinely giving the public access to files, hosting information days to get citizens educated, setting up dedicated RTI sections, and migrating fully to e-RTI platforms so the whole process is as frictionless as possible. We've unpacked the anatomy of corruption, diagnosed the root causes, and gone through the blueprints designed to fight it. You know, the power of the Lokpal, the Prevention of Corruption Act, and the RTI. So I'll leave you with this. Armed with this knowledge, how are you going to step up and use these exact tools to hold the system accountable in your own community? Think about it. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.